Welcome to Visualize, the podcast where collaboration fuels change. I'm your host, Chris Baker, and each week we'll explore incredible connections between nonprofits, businesses, and the community. This is a space where we highlight inspiring partnerships, uncover strategies for creating meaningful impact, and share stories that show how working together can make all the difference. Whether you're a nonprofit leader, a business owner, or someone just passionate about building connections, this podcast is for you. Welcome back to Visualize. Today I have Peter Leighton.
Hi there, Chris.
Welcome to the show. So
Very excited to be here.
he is from Palermo, Landsman, and Ross. Did I get that right?
Yes, a CPA firm, full service, corporate tax, individual tax, absolutely.
Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed right off the bat is what you guys have done for the nonprofits, specifically Children's Harbor.
It's part of our values as a firm.
Big one.
Yes.
So part of this podcast is really to talk about that. I would love to hear your specific journey in helping nonprofits, either through this this business or through other ones in the past even. Like, just what brought you to love?
Yeah, obviously part of my DNA, if you will, over my last 55 years has been the ability to give and the ability to share. And the ability to have optimism every day that I can make a difference. Some people go back to what's called like the starfish story of making a difference for one person or one individual. And so I've always looked at it as altruism. I think there's two things that you can have aspect on. There's philanthropy, where, you kind of go, you show up, you strike a check, and that's okay. But then there's altruism, which is really true community service, where we get in there and we work with people who maybe are a little less fortunate than us or have some challenges in life. Some of the areas that I've worked with over my career, having started my career in higher education, administration, and faculty work, was working with fraternities and sororities and clubs on institutions, both public and private, on the idea of encouraging those young people to do altruism. So I remember one example when I was at Arizona State, which was the beginning of my career. We used to do what was called Christmas in April, where we partnered up with Home Depot and Lowe's, and we brought all of the fraternity and sorority members, about 3,000 of them, on a random weekend in April, and we went in with Habitat for Humanity and we built homes.
How many?
3,000 fraternity sorority members.
Wow.
Yeah, it was incredible. And they're a big campus. I mean, they're almost doing 80,000 people at their campus. So I had the opportunity to role model that from a very young age. Yeah. I was only 23 years old when I got my first job with my master's degree. And so that thwarted me forward, pushed me forward, if you will, inspired me to always look at, Chris, opportunities to provide altruism wherever I worked. Now, am I a business owner? No, it's just not in my DNA, but I'm a builder. I'm a compound builder. So I like to build things, right? So what happened is no matter where I worked, I looked towards finding what we could do to give back. So when I went to Rochester Institute of Technology, part of my job was working with 3,000 deaf students, okay? Had to learn sign language very quickly, had to understand deaf culture, which is a fascinating culture, but it's very different than the majority of us in the hearing world.
No, it is.
So some of my opportunities there were very different and very humbling when I would go out with my deaf clubs and organizations or my leadership teams from the residence halls, and we would do things like highway cleanups, okay? Now, you can communicate when you're verbally doing that, but you're doing it through sign language. You have to look out for safety. You have to make sure the teams are doing things right. So it was a very humbling experience. That led me on to FIU, where I finished up my higher ed career and then went into private practice with assisted living in our seniors. So what we used to do there was a program called the Nitwits. And I used to have about 16 or 17 of my 70 to 90-year-olds. Okay. And we would bring them in and we would do knitting 3 days a week. And I would kind of, coordinate it, provide the yarn. And we would create small warm blankets, small warm handy warmers, and small warm knitted hats. And every quarter, we would then take our production over to Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital on the peds, very serious, ICU, those types of situations and scenarios for them and the families, and we would donate those. And that was some really cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't striking a check. It was really giving a humanistic touch to those children. Since then, I've worked with all the Alzheimer's Association of both Dade and Broward. I served on their boards early on, and now I have a tradition. My wife and I, we go to their walk, the memory walk, every year.
Yeah.
And whether I'm doing it by myself out of the goodness of my heart and giving back, or I'm going on behalf of my company, that's been very important. Currently at Palermo, Landsman Ross, we really do a lot with Children's Harbor, which is an excellent local Broward County, organization, nonprofit. And myself, for the last 7 years, I sit proudly and serve on the board of the Broward County Guardianship Association, which is a nonprofit.
Wow.
So that's pretty much, I think it's always been critically important. Every now and then, my wife and I still go over to Feeding America in Hallandale near our home, and we will do a day over there with, usually about 100 people of, packing up the food packages that are so needed in our community.
Let's talk a little bit more about current collaborations, specifically, maybe with Children's Harbor, with Landsman and Ross.
Right.
And how is that collaboration set up? How do you guys make it unique or different so that other people can kind of like see it and understand it to the point where that they maybe can go and find some of those types of options?
Look, when I came on board with PLR CPAs 2 years ago, I had known Mr. Palermo for 22 years. So I already knew his reach. I knew Karen Ross's reach. I knew Brett Landsman's reach. And of course, Dean Palermo, Artie's brother, who's also a partner. And I knew that they always were engaged in these, so it was going to be a natural fit for me to come on board with the team and then bring my organizations to the approach. So we have a process going on as we speak where we've renewed our website. We've renewed what is called the community development section on the website. We're going to evolve that. What's exciting to me is I had worked on a similar project to that at my former law firm, Chepnick Trushin, in North Miami, where we worked on a media section, we worked on professional presentation section, we worked on a community service section. So I was really in the flow there of being able to actualize what we were doing. And that's the key thing, right? You strike a check, it's okay, your name gets up on a board. But when you show the community, the local community, that you are engaging it, and that you are doing things in the heart and the core of Broward County to better Broward County, where a majority of our clients lie, you become much more represented, much more visible. Credible is huge in that. So I came on board, and obviously the Alzheimer's Association and the BCGA, the Broward County Guardianship Association, were a given. And right away, Mr. Palermo said, I will give you money towards BCGA, your time, your effort, your labor. And he said, I will support you fully in the Alzheimer's Walk in Broward. And I said, thank you so much. As I've been there, Miss Ross is the chair of the board of Children's Harbor, and I've been more engaged with them on the backside, which has been a lot of fun and a lot of motivation, taking care of children and mothers who have gone through some horrific adult scenarios and are getting the shelter, and the kids are getting the collaborations and the teachings. So that has been a lot of fun, but it's also been a lot of, I think, a little more serious in the altruistic loin, if you will. I also have learned more about Brett Landsman, right? Brett Landsman and I go back about 18 years. What I didn't realize is he was so engaged with the Crockett Foundation. And so he is involved with Henry Crockett. Henry Crockett and his brother, who played in the NFL, played at Florida State, go Noles, because I'm an alum myself with my master's, very proud. But the Crockett Foundation is in Pompano, and the Crockett Foundation is getting larger. And what they're doing now, Chris, is that they are going into the communities of Pompano in some of the tougher areas and helping kids with after-school programs, helping kids to stay away from the streets. They're helping kids get extra learning in math and science. They've even started a new collaboration in the area of robotics. They're doing some really cool stuff in that STEM arena,
Right.
science, technology, those types of things. And then the other thing that recently we've learned more about is called Ideal. And that is another nonprofit that Mr. Palermo just decided to join the board. I don't know where the man finds the time sometimes, but he gives back a lot. But that is an organization helping cognitively and or mentally challenged human beings, a lot of children. So that's kind of hit home for me too, because I had a cousin, Krista, who also had some of those challenges, and watching that growing up as a child and as a teen. And so it's really cool to see us giving back in that space as well. And then finally, I'll bring up that, I'm part of my job. It's very important. It's related to all this, is that I am now seeking to meet the board members of all of those organizations because of awareness building, credibility building for the PLR brand, right? So part of my goals this year, literally as a business developer, is to get in front of more of those board members and make business relationships form so that we may or may not pick up new clients, but we know strategically we're in the right place.
Okay.
Yep.
So do you have any collaboration stories that you can kind of anything that you've worked on recently that really made a huge impact?
Yeah. I think one of the things about me, Chris, is that my entire career, for whatever reason, how it panned out, has been about adult development. Okay. So, I started out with a dream of being a dean of students on a college campus. I made it all the way up to associate dean at FIU for a couple of years. And then I went into the private sector. But my whole ability as a professional and a leader and a community give back leader has been working with adults. Let's talk about it. I had the 17 or 18-year-olds up to 22, college age, traditional, helping them to kind of get ready for life, if you will, what we used to call the learning out of the classroom. I then went into senior care on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Sure.
And I was working with anywhere from 65-year-olds who had some kind of challenges that needed to be in assisted living or in skilled care living, all the way up to my oldest, who was 109. And now at Palermo, Landsman Ross, I'm on the accounting side, the corporate side, which is something that was a learning curve for me. But now I've grasped it, and now what I'm doing is helping business owners to understand you got to have business corporate documents to keep your business straight. You got to know what your CPA is doing for you or not doing for you. You need to understand financial planning, financial advising, and you also need to have estate planning done. Because what happens in that collaboration effort is they're building all this wealth. They're amazing at what they do. I love meeting these business owners. It's fascinating to me how people make money in this country. But at the same note, Chris, in that collaborative effort, we're guiding them and saying, you got to protect what you're earning.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, even on the nonprofit side,
Sure.
same thing. Right. Nonprofits are a business.
Absolutely.
And if they don't have the documents in place,
right,
there's going to be hiccups.
Sure.
There's going to be challenges.
Right.
So that actually brings us up to our next topic, a little bit about challenges. What are some of the challenges that you've noticed through working with and helping nonprofits that you had to overcome? What are some of those lessons?
Well, I go back to an interesting experience when I was working in law, and I served on a board that was called Impact Broward. Okay. And a gentleman by the name of Mike Wild, who's an attorney at Kelly Cronenberg, and is very well known in the Broward County community service space, does a lot with 211, does a lot with United Way Broward, etc. He brought me on to the board of Impact Broward. And what Impact Broward did was we were out there working with seniors who couldn't have transportation to the doctor. We were working with veterans who probably just needed a little bit of help and guidance in their life. We were working with what was called Veterans Court, which was part of the Broward County court system, where if a veteran got in trouble, we would then assign a trained veteran from our organization as part of their rehab, as part of their probation, wannabe. Now, one of the challenges we hit on that was we had an 8-year run on that board, And we watched the organization, unfortunately, dwindle down to having to close. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And I will tell you that it was extremely challenging and frustrating as a board member going out and doing things like golf tournaments, fundraisers. And I was one of the major fundraisers. And ultimately watching some of the issues on the backside that we administratively really couldn't fix, right? That had to come from the CEO, the COO, that was their role, that was their job. And so it was very challenging as we watched it dwindle down over time, and yet we were still putting efforts in to do the right thing because we knew we were taking care of seniors and we were taking care of people who had just made a mistake and they were trying to get back into the community, and we knew we were taking care of people for the idea, Chris, of helping someone who needed a little extra, in life.
Right.
And that was very challenging to watch. And then the other thing that I'll share is that some know that at the end of 2022, I myself found myself in a very tough mental health challenge. And, I found myself watching everything I had built, everything that I was trying to go into the future in my 50s, had just lost my job at no fault of mine. And, I am watching my own self, my mind, my body, physically dominated by anxiety and fear. And that really changed me from the standpoint of, thank God to my counselors, thank God to my wife, my mom, my friends, that in an 8-month period, I battled through it. And I share that because I think what my perspective is now going through that and kind of turning a leaf to a higher power, whatever it may be, is I say, especially to men, get help.
Oh, 100%.
Okay? Get help. And so that came later in my life. And if I would have looked at this from an outside in through a glass and said, Peter C. Leighton will have this happen to him in his 50s, I would have laughed at you. Okay? And then what has come out of that? Well, you and I are involved in a business network. And just recently, I got a 20-year award for a Lifetime Achievement Award to South Florida, both Dade and Broward, for my production and my giving. Yeah. That was a proud moment. Now, I look back on what happened to me, and I'm still learning about me. And I'm still learning about my wife and our relationship and about my business presence. So I think that these are some things that when you talk about challenges, you can have them, yes, as I describe it in Impact Broward, but you got to keep an eye on yourself, and you got to know when things are telling you you need to get help, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
I was not expecting it to go that route, but you're completely right. Mental health is so important, and it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman.
Right.
Get the help that you need,
right,
because you cannot take care of anyone else
right,
until you take care of yourself first.
Right.
And it's the statement that I always recommend is like, you fill your cup first, right, and you put your cup on top of other cups, right, and then whatever spills over can go to other people.
Right. And Chris, I'll make another point. What I learned from my counselors is I was an expert at masking. I was an expert.
Oh, yeah.
And I was really good at it. And I wasn't picking up on things like that my wife, my mom, my dad, when he was still alive, would say to me. I wasn't picking up on them. Sure. Because everything else around me was just close to perfect. I mean, I had good jobs, thank God. I got paid well, thank God, and I was living a great life. All my friends, music is a big thing in my life, and all my music family, we were just on Jam Cruise last week, which, yes, I highly promote if you like live music. It was epic. But, coming back around to the seriousness part of it, you're absolutely correct, Chris, in that you've got to seek help and find it. The one thing that for men, I'll say this, it's embarrassing and it's hard on your psyche. So get out there and get the help you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's very important. What is the future involvement? I mean, you did say Palermo was actually joining a board.
Oh.
He has
a new board.
A new board. So, I mean, new boards are a whole nother level, right, because, you're starting from scratch,
right,
especially if the organization is brand new.
Right.
So talk about that and a little bit more about where Palermo, Landsman Ross is going to help?
Yeah. I mean, look, we're very proud of what we've done. We're very proud of where we're going. I think what is exciting with the involvement of the website, it's kind of sparked Miss Ross and Mr. Palermo and myself, having been in the front business development wise out in the community and whatnot, to really take a look at brand awareness and to take a look at mission, vision, to look at values.
So important.
Yeah. And, I've learned along my journey as a non-business owner to observe some firms and organizational cultures that I think both workplace culture wise, they're absolutely living it. Right. So I look at law firms like Bast Amron down in Miami, very much aligned to their values and how they do it. And I think what's happening at Palermo, Landsman Ross is the actualization of serving, right? So we're trying to look at how do we set expectations from day one when we onboard a new bookkeeper, we onboard a new tax preparer, a new CPA, to saying, we're not forcing anybody to do something they're uncomfortable with. But what we're saying is there's a high expectation here that part of this experience, this job, this workplace culture is for you to tell us what you're supporting. And that might be a great endeavor. We will help you to support that. Or tell us what you'd like to engage. Okay.
Right.
So recently I've been doing some mini interior, beta gathering on our teams and, what is important to them for giving back? What is important to them for social media? What is important to them of who they're following? We may find out that somebody has a passion for something related to the Jewish faith. We may find out that someone has a passion for an organization that is providing assistance to seniors. Okay, the idea being here, Chris, is that how do we actualize it in our community? And we are steadfast on the credibility of our foundation of what we say we are and who we are and how we live it. And so that's been a lot of fun in the last couple of months, working on that, which is kind of an inside thing versus the fact that I'm outside.
Yeah.
And I think the reason, again, that I can help with it is because of all my experiences in the nonprofit circles and the giving and the sharing, the community service projects and altruism that I outlined earlier in the interview. And now what I'm able to do is put together even another level of packaging, if you will, for the firm's brand.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
No,
and it's been fun. It's been fun.
No, that's going to be very, very valuable for a lot of people. So I think this is great.
Yeah.
This is great. All right. So how do people that are interested in CPA work, how do they contact Palermo, Landsman Ross?
Yeah. The first thing I'd say about contacting Palermo, Landsman Ross is to go and check out our website. We went into modernization. I'll just say that. Exciting though. Go to www.plrcpas, yes, with an S.com, one word. It's fun. It's frolicky. It's educational. All the profiles of the core team members are up there. You can learn more about me, which is fun and cool. And then the other thing is that clearly, we are accessible to our clients and accessible to folks who want to learn more, who want to get an assessment done of their current financials and taxes. And we know this. Our goal is not numbers, believe that or not. We're very sophisticated at what we do, and we have the experience and seasoning to say that. But what we're doing is the people business, right? We want business owners to come into us, engage us, and on the backside, the result is helping them to be a better business owner.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Awesome. So my final question, to kind of like wrap this up.
Well, I could go all day with you, Chris.
You probably could. We could, definitely. So what is the legacy you personally hope to leave for future generations?
Okay. That's a funny question because I just had our estate plan reviewed.
Okay.
And, that's a tough one sometimes. Yeah. It's a tough one. This is the second round we've had it reviewed. Martha and I don't have any kids, but we have an estate plan, and we're proud of that. Hence having come from a firm that did a lot of that work in law. But I teased during it And I said, Martha, to my beautiful wife, my rock, I said, when I go, the gravestone is simply going to say, he helped a lot of people. He helped a lot of people. So, my ideal now is I'm out there. I want to help the business owners to get their stuff right.
Yeah.
It may not be PLR they end up going with, but I can tell you this, they're going to get opportunities for strategic introductions to grow their business. They're going to get opportunities to learn more from our business advisory. And for me, it's the ideal that I just feel great in life, that it feels great to give. And so that's where my world is. I think turning the leaf after my challenges in 22 have been a great eye-opener for me. And I'm going to continue to utilize my affirmations every day that I get up and every night that I go to bed so that the next day is full of optimism.
I'm grateful that I get to breathe.
That's it.
Grateful that I have a roof over my head.
That's
when I
it.
wake up.
Yeah,
So
it's very important. And so, yeah, it's all about giving back one way or another. I'm blessed. We're blessed.
yeah.
And we're very blessed. Martha and I talk about that a lot as my bestie. And, we want to be able to get out there and make a difference for our community and help other people.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
That's absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
Peter, thank you so much today
you,
for
Chris.
being on the show. And this is a wealth of knowledge. So thank you.
Very appreciative, and I enjoyed every second of it.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Visualize. We hope that the inspiration and practical insights can help you foster stronger connections and meaningful change. Don't forget to subscribe, share the episode, and leave us a review. To learn more about Visuals by Momo and how we support collaboration and storytelling, visit visualsbymomo.com. A huge thank you to everyone out there listening. Until next time, remember, collaboration fuels change, and your connections can inspire the world.